Okay, so for some context to this story, my friends and I were all around 14 to 15 years old during this encounter. We also lived abroad in Prague, the capital city of the Czech Republic. We all attended an international school, and we were like family. We were 5, mind you, a very close-knit group. Our parents generally trusted us to go off on our own in the safe parts of Prague, mainly around our school, an international school. This is relevant later on. During the summertime, we would sometimes go out to the theme park instead of our usual haunts. Of course, our parents would often come along with siblings, so we didn't do this much. Too difficult and little alone time, but now I really understand why they always insisted on staying close and being together. On one of our visits to the theme park in late August, one of my friends, Emma, met a native guy a year older than her. Let's call him Alex. She spoke the best Czech out of all of us, so they could communicate easily. They seemed to click and exchanged phone numbers so they could communicate with each other in the future. Immediately, I had a bad vibe coming from this guy. He certainly didn't look 16, and he had the creeper eyes running all over her body. When we eventually walked back to our parents, I tugged on her arm and suggested that she delete his number because of the creepy aura he seemed to have. I was the shortest of our group, and my friends often protected me the most if we were ever in a bad situation. I was somewhat naive at this time, which certainly didn't help my case. Emma snorted up my suggestion and told me that I was just being paranoid about people that I didn't know. I still had the uneasy feeling though, while Emma talked about him in line for one of the rides. Mackenzie, without a doubt the one that I was closest with, noticed and asked me what was wrong while we sat together in the Czech version of a fairyland and It's a Small World hybrid. Explaining my unease about Alex and his flimsy facade of a teenage guy, Mackenzie, thankfully, took my concerns seriously and helped me voice them to Emma, Chloe, and Camille. Emma and Chloe thought that we were being stupid, while Camille was conflicted. In hindsight, they probably thought the scary stories about girls getting sold into the sex trade were making us paranoid. We didn't get anywhere, and we eventually had to move on to the next ride. Mackenzie made Camille and I promise to help her keep an eye on Emma, but not to tell her because she would get secretive and refuse to tell us anything. We agreed to not tell her parents unless it got out of hand, because God knows this situation was tricky enough without our parents barging in and making it worse. This was the 14 to 15-year-old mentality talking, which almost cost us. Emma and Alex talked all the time over the phone and eventually started going on dates. She never told her parents about these and would often cut lacrosse practice to see him. This obviously bothered us, but it was impossible to get it through that she needed to let her parents meet him so she could stop cutting practice and hiding her relationship from them. After a while, Emma was talking about their first kiss, falling deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. Finally, around mid-October, Emma left us on one of our treks through the mall to meet Alex. Chloe was sick that day, and with no one to stop us, we decided to follow her and see where she was going to meet him. Following around 7 meters or 20 feet behind her, we saw her go out to the edges of the city center into a decrepit coffee shop. Watching from a good distance away, Alex and her sat outside and talked, occasionally stopping to sip coffee. They kissed a number of times, but Alex had an extremely eerie look, like he was driven more by lust instead of love. This brought Camille over to our side immediately, as she and Mackenzie were the only ones who had not seen Alex yet. We left then and returned to my house to set out a game plan of trying to convince Emma that Alex was a major creeper. Before we even started though, Emma called us to tell us about how she thought that Alex was the one. We tried to convince her that she should tell her parents if they were that serious about each other, but she blatantly refused and accused us of being jealous. We denied it, apologized, and eventually she hung up after inquiring about our homework for that weekend. At this point, we decided that the situation was dire enough to go to her parents. They seemed to be the only viable option left, but we were still terrified of breaking the friendship we had with Emma and Chloe. With the hope that Emma would still be out on her date with Alex, we dashed over to her home. Thankfully, her mother was home at the time, with her younger brother. We quickly told her about what had been going on, and she seemed upset about it. However, we made her promise not to tell Emma that we had told her about it. Instead, we proposed it could have been found out by checking her phone records. Feeling better having spilled the beans, we all returned to my house and loitered in my room until Mackenzie and Camille had to go home. The next day at school, we were confronted by a furious Emma and Chloe. They probably figured out that we had told on her and declared that they no longer wanted to be friends with us. I was crushed, but Camille and Mackenzie assured me that they would come around to our point of view eventually. I wasn't sure our friendship would ever be the same, but I tried to convince myself that we did the right thing. A couple of weeks later, while Camille was over at my house, I heard the doorbell ring. When I came to the door, it was Emma, Chloe, and Mackenzie. Their eyes looked reddish, like they had been crying, and I let them in immediately. All 5 of us sat at my kitchen table, and Mackenzie explained to me what had happened. After Emma's parents intervened, Emma tried to contact Alex in other ways, often leaving a note in her window with a location where they could meet. Emma and Chloe would organize it so that Emma's parents thought that she was at Chloe's house, while Emma would go out to meet Alex. This happened approximately 3 times in 3 to 4 weeks, and on the second meeting, Alex convinced Emma that she should run away with him to his uncle's house in Moldova, a country to the west of Ukraine. On the third, Emma brought a bag full of clothes and such, under the pretense that she was sleeping over at Chloe's. Instead, she rode her bike to the train station and waited for Alex in a cafe near the train platforms. Apparently, they talked for a while, and he gave her a muffin that he had bought on the way there. Emma's father called Chloe's home minutes after she left on her bike to say that she had left her teeth covers for grinding teeth and that he was going to drop them off later on. But Chloe's mother told him that Emma wasn't coming over for a sleepover and that none had been scheduled. Remember when I said we were like sisters? Our parents were fairly close as well and trusted us enough to ask for confirmation from the friend instead of the parents at this point. Thankfully, Emma's dad knew enough to take the car off to the train station to look for her. He apparently saw her bike in the racks outside of the train station and dashed through the station looking for her. Before he had even gone into the station itself, however, he saw Alex, along with 2 other older men, walking to a large grey van, carrying Emma. He ran at them, yelling, and caused a huge scene. They dropped her, ran to the grey van, and drove off. When Emma's dad checked on Emma, it looks like she was knocked out with some sleeping medication. She was taken off to the doctor's office to make sure that she was alright. The police were called, and the whole thing was investigated. They never managed to track down Alex, but the police officer informed Emma's parents about young teenage girls being groomed to be kidnapped and taken to other countries like Serbia and Russia and sold into the sex trade. I listened to this, horrified looks on our faces, and when Mackenzie finished, Emma started crying while she and Chloe apologized for not listening to us. We hugged it out and stayed at my house for several hours to reconnect. Since then, our friendship has been stronger. I don't think this experience will ever leave me, even if it didn't happen, as it's been established by this subreddit. If you get weird feelings about someone, don't hesitate to follow your gut instinct. Last summer, I worked at a water park / hotel / golf course timeshare place. I was hired to draw caricatures in the hotel lobby, which was kind of a cool job. It paid really well. I liked it. People like having their picture drawn. I drew a lot of caricatures over the summer, and I'll tell you what, you meet all kinds of people. Here's the story. One slow day, 2 ladies, fat, ugly, missing teeth, and absolutely foul smelling, and walked by with like a 10-year-old boy, and the two ladies were immediately excited about the idea of having their kid drawn. I think they were sisters. They seemed basically normal. I chatted with them. They watched me do a drawing and waited for me to finish the one that I was working on. Anyway, it came their turn and we started talking again. People would usually have me do a theme to their drawing, like draw us as Power Rangers or whatever. I asked the kid what he wanted his pictures to be about. He didn't say anything, and his mother stooped down so he could whisper in her ear. She relayed to me that he wanted to be drawn as Godzilla. I was like, oh, okay, wait, do you want to be drawn like fighting Godzilla, riding on his back or what? He spoke to his mother again. No, he wanted to be Godzilla. Okay, sure, like whatever. So he sat down in my chair and I tried talking to him about what he liked. Did he play sports? Just random stuff that I would like to talk to people about to keep them entertained while I draw. He didn't say anything, which is fine. Like, some kids are shy, but this kid actually seemed kind of disturbed, like there was a reason he couldn't talk or something. That I can't say for sure, but these two ladies basically spoke for him and really enjoyed talking to me while they watched me draw. At one point, the mother of the kid got really close to me and said that she wanted to talk to me when I was done. I was like, okay. Her breath reeked really badly. I finished the drawing of the kid as Godzilla, and he said thank you, which surprised me, and the two ladies laughed and looked over the picture and liked it a lot. The kid and one of the ladies left for the water park, and the mother stayed behind to talk to me as she had asked. She said something along the lines of, okay, now I'd like you to draw another picture, but this one is sort of personal. A little concerned, I asked her to explain. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through pictures. She got uncomfortably close to me, had a big smile on her face and said, "Ready?" I nodded, really weirded out, and looked down at her phone to see a picture of a stillborn child that looked as if he had been dipped in blood. "Beautiful, isn't he?" the lady said. "I called him my little monkey because he looks like a monkey." And she laughed really loud. I was speechless. I sort of slapped my head to my forehead, and it took me a while to respond, but all I could think was to say, "All children are beautiful," trying so hard to mask how fucking shocked I was. The lady then said, "Well, I'd like you to draw him as a monkey." I didn't say anything. She scrolled to another picture on her phone, another premature baby with tubes up its nose, and the woman said, "And this was my little seal. He lasted 4 hours. Doesn't he look like a little seal?" Of course, she wanted him drawn as a seal. Holy shit, so bizarre. Her breath reeked of alcohol and smoke and just general odor, and she was laughing in my face. Without asking, the lady sent the pictures to my cell phone because my number was on the sign by the easel. I was so shocked that I could hardly put a sentence together. I said something to the effect of, "Maybe," because I couldn't help but feel bad for her. She said, "Great, we're here till Thursday," and walked away. I called off till Friday.